안녕하세요. 저는 시사주간지 시사인의 김동현 기자입니다. Hello everyone. I'm Dongin Kim, journalist of Sisain, which is the one of the most important news magazine in South Korea. So, um, uh, 제가 영어로 발표를 하면은 의미 전달이 잘 안 될 것 같아서 오늘은 한국어로 말씀을 드리고 이 설명을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 잘 부탁드립니다.
Yes, I will get the presentation itself in Korean because I feel I will be able to more abundantly convey what I want to share with you today. I'm very pleased to be here and I'm about to start my lecture now.
예. 우선 저에 대해서 간단하게 소개를 드리겠습니다. 지금 시사인에서 국제경제팀장으로 일을 하고 있고요. 지금 경제와 도시 이슈들을 주로 취재하고 있습니다.
Let me say a few words about myself. I am currently working as a journalist, as a staff writer for Shisa-in, the magazine that was introduced earlier. I'm a team lead there at the moment. I'm leading the team that is dealing with the economy and with international affairs, and in particular, I focus on issues relating to the housing market and other urban issues. Excuse me.
특히 한국에서 최근에 이 부동산 이슈, 그리고 인구 이동, 또 도시 재생, 교통망 형성 등에 관해서 최근에 취재를 많이 하고 있습니다.
And what I focus on in what I cover in particular is everything related to urban issues. I focus on questions of movement of migration. I focus on questions of urban regeneration, revitalization, also issues relating to transport. That is what I focus on in my work.
네. 일단 시작하기 앞서서 제가 일하고 있는 언론 매체에 대해서도 조금 설명을 드릴 필요가 있을 것 같아요.
Before I start, I would like to say a few more words about the particular media outlet that I'm working for.
왜냐하면 이 매체에서 시작했던 기사가, 이 매체에서 이제 발표한 기사가 오늘 이 강의의 주된 주제가 되기 때문입니다.
And that is because the extended feature that was in this very magazine, the feature on the problem of vacant housing, is actually at the very foundation of today's lecture.
시사인은 간단하게 말해서 한국의 슈피겔이라고 말씀을 드리고 싶은데요. 물론 슈피겔이 훨씬 더 큰 언론사이지만 나름 시사주간지에서는 가장 많이 팔리고 있습니다.
Put briefly, one might argue that Shisa-in is the Korean equivalent to German Spiegel. Of course, the dimensions might be a bit different, but when it comes to relevance and importance, I dare say that we are comparable to the rank and the status of Spiegel in Germany, when it comes to weekly news magazines in South Korea.
한국어로 시사라는 거는 이 뉴스와 또 사회의 어떤 전반적인 이슈를 의미하는 건데 그 뒤에 in을 붙인 매체입니다.
So if we take a closer look at the name of the magazine, Shisa is a Korean word. It relates to current affairs. We can also see it as referring to news and to societal issues at large. And to that expression, the Korean term Shisa, we have added in.
특히 저희는 인디펜던트를 매우 중요시 여기는데 왜냐하면 삼성 기사를 삭제당했던 기자들이 원래 있던 회사에서 나와서 새로 만든 매체이기 때문입니다.
Now, the different ways of reading in what it stands for include reading in as shorthand for independent, and our independence is indeed something that we are that we take great pride in, and that is very important to us. And that is because if you look at how this magazine was created, the background is that it was founded by journalists who had previously experienced that an article that they had written about Samsung while working for a different media outlet had been removed, and they moved out of their previous employment in protest to that removal and founded Shisa-in with a very strong focus on independence.
네. 그럼 본격적으로 얘기를 시작해 보겠습니다.
Yes, let me come to the main body of my presentation today.
네. 우선 왜 빈집에 관심을 두고 빈집을 썼는지 설명드릴게요.
First, I want to tell you about how I came to be interested in the issue of vacant houses or vacant housing, and how I came to write the particular extended feature that is at the foundation of this presentation that, as I mentioned earlier.
여러분들이 사전에 뭐 알려드렸던 링크를 통해서 기사를 읽어보셨을 텐데, 이 스페셜 웹사이트 기사는 실제로는 지면 기사의 약 70% 정도 되는 분량입니다.
Most of you will have read the extended feature in question because you were provided with the link. As you could see, it took the form of a special website, and this would correspond to about an article on paper occupying about 70% of the magazine.
실제로 매거진에 실린 기사는 상당히 대규모고 상당히 많은데요. 이를 위해서 저희는 일본, 한국, 미국, 그리고 독일까지 총 4개국의 빈집 상황을 점검해 봤습니다.
Yes, so this particular extended feature, it took up a lot of space in our magazine, in the printed edition. So it is really a large-scale enterprise. It was a large-scale enterprise. And to come up with this article, with this extended feature, we traveled within South Korea, but we also visited Japan, the USA, and Germany. So 4 countries altogether are represented in this extended feature.
우선 한국에서 빈집들을 직접 찾아다녀 봤습니다.
We started by actually traveling across South Korea and visiting on-site, visiting and inspecting various vacant houses, vacant buildings in South Korea.
휴일에도 혼자 차를 끌고 돌아다녀 봤는데 나중에는 저기 빈집이 있을 것 같은데 하면 여지없이 있더라고요.
I even traveled across the country alone in my car or in my free time, actually the days that were actually days off work. And I became such an expert I developed almost an instinct for places that I expected would have vacant houses. And whenever I had that instinct, followed that instinct, I would actually find vacant housing on the spot.
그만큼 저희가 생각했던 것보다 상당히 많은 빈집이 한국에 있었습니다.
This also, of course, speaks volumes as to how many vacant houses there actually are in South Korea these days.
그러면 왜 빈집 문제를 본격적으로 다루게 되었는지 설명드릴게요.
Now let me talk to you about how I came to be so interested in the issue of vacant houses and how I came to investigate, research this issue so sincerely.
2010년대까지 한국에서 빈집은 별로 중요한 문제가 아니었습니다.
Until the 2010s, I would like to say, the issue of vacant houses was not considered to be that topical in South Korea.
한국 전쟁으로 인해서 이 모든 건물이 무너진 나라가 사실상 60년 동안 늘 집이 부족하다고만 생각했거든요.
This might be related to the fact that in a country where the Korean War, had destroyed so much housing, there was a very strong understanding for over 60 years that if anything, housing was something that Korea was short of.
그러다 보니 빈집에 대한 체계적인 통계도 마련되어 있지 못했습니다.
And this also meant that there was no such thing as a systematic collection of data related to the question of vacant housing. Data and, statistics.
네. 그리고 법적으로 한국에서는 빈집이라고 규정하는 주체가 지방 정부입니다.
Also, if we look at the legal situation, we find that it is the local self-governing bodies or the local governments that have the power to define what constitutes, in legal terms, what constitutes vacant housing in the first place.
그런데 지방 정부일수록 별로 빈집에 관심이 많지 않았어요.
But actually, we can see that local governments were not that interested in the question of vacant housing, less so than maybe central government would have been.
게다가 빈집은 사유재산입니다. 한국에서 이 점이 매우 정말 정말 중요합니다.
And what is very important to keep in mind when we talk about vacant housing in Korea is that all these vacant houses will be privately owned. This is a very important point in Korea. If we talk of vacant houses, these will be houses that are privately owned.
왜냐하면 이 재산을 증식하는 가장 일반적인 방법이 이 집이었기 때문입니다.
And this in turn is related to the fact that private individuals who seek to increase their property, their assets, who seek to become richer, will do that with the help of houses, with the help of real estate. That is very strong in Korean finance and culture.
또 빈집에 관심을 갖게 된 이유 중 하나는 빈집 자체가 전염성을 가지고 있다는 겁니다. 하나가 생기면 그 옆에 또 다른 빈집이 계속해서 생겼습니다.
Another factor that made me become interested in the phenomenon of vacant houses is that vacant houses can be said to be contagious. They can be said to be infectious. Once there is a vacant house anywhere in a neighborhood, we can see a series of other vacant houses springing up.
그리고 이 기사를 썼던 2019년에도 젊은 세대가 서울로 몰린다는 이야기가 많이 나오고 있었습니다.
And another factor that is related to me becoming interested in this topic is that in the year 2019, which is the year that this extended feature was written, there was already a lot of talk of the phenomenon of how young people were more and more flocking towards Seoul and were gathering in Seoul and therefore no longer being present in more rural parts of the country.
그래서 서울이 아닌 지역에서 생기는 빈집 문제가 한국 사회를 잘 보여준다고 생각을 했습니다.
And all of this made me think that vacant houses outside of Seoul would be very indicative of the more overall situation in South Korea. So we could learn a lot about the situation in South Korea by looking at the issue of vacant housing in the non-Seoul parts of South Korea.
그래서 도시의 불평등과 양극화를 보여주는 대상이라고 생각했습니다.
So I felt that vacant houses would be a very good subject matter to look into the issue of inequality, in the issue of sort of imbalance, more generally speaking, and also to examine the issue of an increasing polarization.
이 시간에 제가 특히 여러분들이 이 빈집을 일종의 돋보기로 이해해 주셨으면 합니다.
And when it comes to this particular lecture today, I should very much like all of you to think of the issue of vacant housing as a kind of magnifying glass that we can use to look at other related issues.
네. 뭐 화면에 나와 있는 것처럼 뭐 부동산 시장, 그리고 도시재생 등등등 여러 가지 도시 문제를 살펴보는데 이 빈집이라는 돋보기를 활용할 수 있습니다.
So we can use this magnifying glass of the vacant housing problem, as I would like to call it, to take a closer look at the issues that are listed for you on the slide, the real estate market, urban regeneration, and so on.
자, 이제 몇 장의 사진을 한번 살펴보겠습니다.
Let's take a look at a few pictures.
지금 보이는 사진은 이 전북 김제라는 도시인데요. 여기는 80,000 people이 살고 있습니다.
This picture is from a city or town called 전북 김제가 맞아요?
네,
기재?
네, 맞습니다. 김제. 네.
김제. And the number of inhabitants amounts to 8,000 people at the moment.
80,000 people.
Excuse me, 80,000 people.
네. 근데 여기는 평야라서 농사를 많이 짓는 곳이에요.
And this is a town that has a tradition in farming.
땅이 넓기 때문에 농촌에서도 중간중간 이 거점 지역이 있습니다. 이걸 한국에서는 읍이라고 부릅니다.
The Korean term 읍 is a form of, it's like a town or an administrative unit, 맞아요, 기자님?
네, village보다는 크고,
조금 크고,
city보다는 작고, 네.
So in Korean, the term 읍 is used. It refers to an administrative unit and a region that is a bit larger than a village, but smaller than a city, maybe sort of a small town, I
Yeah, small
suppose might
town.
be appropriate, yes. And actually, there's a lot of farming land in this region.
그런데 옛날에는 이런 데 사람이 많아서 시장도 있었어요. 하지만 지금은 이런 지역들이 대부분 빈집으로 가득 차고 있습니다.
And previously, there being a lot of farmland meant that there were lots of people and that you could see markets as well, farmers markets, I presume. But that has changed now, and this has become an area where you can see a lot of vacant housing.
사진에 보이는 것처럼 노인들만 남는 공간이 되었죠.
And as we can actually see in this picture, it has become a place where we see elderly people mostly.
다음 사진을 보시면 좀 이상하다는 생각이 들 겁니다.
When you look at this next picture, I suppose something will strike you as a bit odd.
뒤에는 산이 엄청 높은데 가운데 이상한 건물이 하나 있죠.
We have sky-high beautiful mountains in the back, but in the middle we have strange buildings, don't we?
여기는 이 50,000 people이 살고 있는 영암이라는 곳인데요.
This place is called Yongam, and it has 50,000 inhabitants.
그런데 여기는 농촌이 대부분인데 중간에 저 이상한 건물을 짓다가 말았습니다.
And here we have mostly small farming villages, but right in the middle, as you can see, there's a rather strange building that has been put up, erected.
실제로 가보면 이런 모습이에요.
And if you're actually on site, this is what it looks like.
그런데 이곳은 빈집 통계에 들어가지 않습니다. 왜냐하면 미완성된 건물이기 때문입니다.
But this place, this building, is not even included in the statistics on vacant housing, and that is because it was never, ever even completed.
그럼 이런 곳은 빈집으로 여겨야 될까요? 아닐까요? 이런 부분도 최근 논란입니다.
So one of the things that people find themselves debating recently when it comes to the issue of vacant housing is, do we have to include buildings that were never even properly finished in our statistics on vacant housing? How are they to be conceived of?
놀랍게도 이 건물이 20년 동안 방치되어 있습니다.
And shockingly, I can tell you that this building, if it is a building, has been dilapidated and deserted for over 20 years now.
자, 이곳은 김천이라는 도시입니다.
Now we've come to a place called Kimcheon.
인구는 140,000 people이 살고 있습니다.
It has 140,000 inhabitants.
생각보단 크죠?
So actually rather big, a rather large number of inhabitants, I would say.
그런데 여기 보면 여러 가지 전단지가 붙어 있는데 대부분이 세입자를 찾는 전단지입니다.
But if we take a look at this picture, we can see that there are different sorts of little small posters and postings, advertisements, and actually most of them are looking for new tenants.
여기 한국어로 적혀 있는 가격들이 있는데 좀 충격적이게도 원룸 하나에 월 10만이라고 적혀 있어요. 그런데 월 10만 원이라고 하면은 잘 모르실 텐데 한마디로 매달 64유로를 달라고 적혀 있습니다.
And if we take a closer look, we can find quite shocking prices. For example, we can see that a one-room small studio apartment, I suppose, is to be let at the price of only 64 euros a month. This is how low the rent, the price is.
물론 이 가격은 독일도 물론이고 서울에서도 불가능합니다.
Of course, this is absolutely impossible to conceive, both for Germany, also for Seoul.
하지만 서울이 아닌 지역에서 실제로 이런 빈집 문제들이 발생하고 있다는 것을 알 수 있었습니다.
So this is another way of telling that this is something else that shows us how severe the problem of vacant housing is outside of Seoul.
네, 이런 문제는 한국만의 문제가 아니라고 생각해서 저희는 미국, 일본, 독일을 함께 취재하기로 했습니다.
Me and my colleagues who wrote this extended feature, we decided to visit the United States, Japan, and Germany because we felt very clearly that the problem of vacant housing was not restricted, was not just a problem of South Korea.
하지만 각각의 나라는 이 취재 컨셉이 좀 달랐습니다.
So we visited all these countries, but I can say that our method, our manner of investigating, of researching differed depending on where we found ourselves.
미국은 러스트벨트를 중심으로 해서 공장이 떠난 도시들을 살펴봤고요.
Lost Belt이라고 하셨나요?
예, 러스트벨트요.
Rust Belt?
예, 러스트벨트.
Yes,
죄송합니다.
아니에요. 제가 무식해서요.
아닙니다.
So in the US, we focused on a region known as the Rust Belt. It's so a region where former industry has left the region.
그리고 일본은 고령화로 인한 이 빈집을 살펴보기 위해서 교토와 오사카를 방문했습니다.
In Japan, we visited Kyoto and Osaka to focus on vacant housing that was brought about by the increasingly aging population.
그리고 마지막으로 독일은 통일과 그리고 인구 이동의 영향을 살펴보기 위해서 방문했고 라입치히, 그다음 데사우, 그다음 에르푸르트 그리고 베를린을 방문했습니다.
And in Germany, we focused on vacant housing as a result of unification and out-migration. And to do so, we visited Leipzig, Dessau, Erfurt, and Berlin.
자, 그러면은 여기서 잠깐 제가 왜 하필 독일을 취재했는지 간단한 백그라운드를 설명을 드려야 될 것 같아요.
So here I feel I should say a few words about how I came to visit Germany out of these places that I just mentioned, visit Germany in my investigation into this issue.
특히 빈집이라는 주제와 독일을 연관해서 보게 된 계기가 있습니다.
Because there is a specific occasion, a specific reason that made me want to investigate the question of vacant housing in connection with Germany.
1986년에 저는 익산이라는 미드사이즈 도시에서 태어났는데 이곳 역시 이번 취재에 포함이 된 빈집이 늘어나는 지역 중에 하나였습니다.
I was born in 1986 in Iksan, which is a medium-sized city, which is affected by the very issue that we're talking about today, by the problem of depopulation and of vacant housing.
그리고 나서 2005년부터 이제 대학교에서 공부를 시작을 했는데요. 특히 2000년대 후반에 제가 일종의 인디밴드들이 서는 라이브 클럽에서 일을 했습니다.
I started my university studies in 2005, and from the end of the 2000s onwards, I started working in a live club, a music club, where indie bands in particular gave their performances.
그런데 그때 이제 상당히 베를린에 대한 관심이 늘어났어요. 왜냐하면 상당히 많은 런던과 파리에서 많은 예술가들이 베를린으로 가고 있다라는 얘기를 들었거든요.
And it is this period of time where I first became aware, or more and more aware of the particular appeal of Berlin and its role in indie culture, because I heard that more and more artists from London, from Paris, were now on their way to Berlin, that Berlin became more popular.
실제로 2009년에 베를린에 가서 크로이츠베르크의 리도라는 클럽이 있는데 거기서 공연을 했습니다.
And actually, in the year 2009, I was able to myself give a performance in the Lido Club in Kreuzberg.
그런데 그 당시에 이 리도 클럽 근처는 굉장히 공터가 많고 빈집이 많았어요.
And at the time, there was still a lot of vacant space, vacant areas, vacant land around this club in town in Kreuzberg.
그때 당시에는 이 빈집이 무섭다기보다는 일종의 어떤 도시의 가능성으로 보이기도 했습니다.
And actually, at the time, vacant houses did not strike me as something that we would have to be afraid of, but something quite attractive that gave a new sense of promise and possibility.
하지만 물론 그 이후에 그 공터는 모두 사라졌더라고요.
But of course, all of this is now a matter of the past, and all these empty vacant spaces have disappeared by now. have been filled
그-
up.
네. 근데 라이브 클럽에서 일했지만 이제 앞으로 뭘 해먹고 살지 몰랐기 때문에 2011년에 저는 40개국 정도를 여행을 했습니다. 1년 동안요.
40개국이나, 네.
네네.
So
40개국. 예, 예.
yeah. So this was my period of working in live clubs, enjoying that very much. But I did also worry about what I would actually be able to make a living off in the future. And in the year 2011, I took some time off to travel around 40 countries in the world, also pondering on this problem.
그러면서 전 세계의 어떤 큰 도시마다 각각의 빈집 문제가 있다라는 것을 눈으로 알게 됐고 관심을 사실 그때부터 가지고 있었습니다.
And while I did this, while I was traveling that extensively, I actually had the opportunity to see with my very own eyes the extent of the problem of vacant housing all over the world, in mega cities all over the world. And I can say that this is the point of time that I started taking an interest in the question of vacant housing.
그리고 나서 기자가 되어서 2014년부터 2018년까지 이 정치 분야 기자를 했는데 정치인들이 이런 걱정을 한다는 걸 알게 됐어요. 우리 동네 인구가 줄어서 유권자가 줄고 있다라는 걱정을 하더라고요.
From the year 2014 onwards, I worked as a political journalist until 2018, so for a period of 4 years. And that gave me a new insight into the question of vacant housing. I realized that many politicians, local politicians in particular, they were worried about the question of vacant houses, but they were so worried because they were afraid of losing people in their electorate. So they were afraid of losing votes in connection with vacant housing.
그리고 나서 이제 2019년에 본격적으로 그런 고민들을 기사화해 보았습니다.
And from 2019 onwards, 2019 is the year where all these previous interests that I'd had in the issue of vacant housing, they became more concrete and they solidified into the article, the extended feature that I'm presenting to you today.
자, 그럼 본격적으로 독일과 한국의 빈집 문제를 비교를 해보도록 하겠습니다.
Okay, let's take a closer look at the issue of vacant housing in a comparison between South Korea and Germany.
처음 독일을 봐야겠다라고 생각한 건 이 통일의 영향이 궁금했기 때문입니다.
My first motive for wanting to take a look at vacant housing in Germany in particular was related to the phenomenon of unification, reunification.
그런데 막상 취재를 하면서 살펴보니까 독일이 한국과 비슷한 문제들이 많았다라는 것을 알게 되었죠.
But once I actually started delving into the issue, I realized that there were actually very many similarities between Germany and South Korea regarding the question of vacant housing, quite independently of the question of reunification.
우선 첫 번째 문제는 저출생 또는 저출산 문제입니다.
The first of these issues that we can see in both countries is the issue of the drop in birth rates and fertility rates. Or fertility rates.
예. 특히 그 fertility rate 같은 경우에는 한국에서 합계 출산율이라고 하죠. 한 여성이 낳을 것으로 기대되는 아이의 숫자가 작년에 0.72까지 떨어졌습니다.
If we look at the total fertility rate first, which of course tells us about the average number of children an individual woman will have in a lifetime or is expected to have in a lifetime, we can see that last year in Korea, that indicator dropped to as low as 0.72.
전쟁 중에도 1 밑으로는 안 떨어지거든요.
And normally it is being said that even in the midst of a war, this total fertility rate would not drop below 1.
인류 역사상 처음 있는 일인데 이게 한국만의 문제는 아닙니다.
So this is actually a first in human history, but of course the question of fertility, the fertility rate more generally is not just a Korean problem.
오른쪽 아래 그림을 살펴봐 주세요.
Please take a look at the right graph.
파란색 선이 이제 사우스 코리아 선이 있는데 그 위에 점선이 하이 인컴 그룹이라고 나와 있습니다.
So the light blue graph represents Korea And the dotted graph above, or well, the dotted graph represents the high income group of countries.
제가 한국에서 기자로 일을 하고 있는데, 미국이나 영국에서 온 기자들도 실제로 만나게 되거든요.
As part of working as a journalist in South Korea, I get to meet many journalists from the US and also from the UK.
워싱턴 포스트, 아니면 뉴욕 타임스, 이런 매체들 기자들이 뭐라고 하냐면, 자기네 헤드쿼터가 이 출산율 기사를 계속해서 쓰라고 한답니다.
And my colleagues from be it the Washington Post or the New York Times, what they tell me a lot is that in their headquarters, from their higher ups, they're repeatedly being told to keep writing on the issue of the fertility rate, the low fertility rate.
실제로 이런 외신들이 관심이 있는 이유는 전 세계적으로 저출산 문제가 확대되고 있기 때문이라고 합니다.
And I think this is related to the fact that this problem of the low fertility rate is a universal problem these days.
그런 움직임이 한국에서는 특히나 극단적으로 발생을 하고 있는 것이죠.
And Korea is only a particularly severe case among a generally problematic situation.
그럼 독일은 어떤지 살펴보겠습니다.
Let's take a look at Germany now.
2010년대에 독일이 합계 출산율이 잠시나마 오르긴 했습니다.
If we take a look at Germany, we can see that in the 2010s, there was a brief increase in the fertility rate for Germany.
하지만 이 2020년대에 들면서 다시 합계 출산율은 낮아지고 있는데 독일 역시 저출산과 저출생 문제에 대해서 고민이 깊어지고 있는 것이 사실입니다.
But from the 2020s onwards, we can see a downward trend for both the total fertility rate and the birth rate. So Germany is also facing a problem in terms of birth rates and fertility rates.
왜냐하면 숫자 2 아래가 나오면 앞으로의 인구는 무조건 줄어든다라고 봐야 돼요.
And this is because as soon as for the total fertility rate, a number of lower than 2 it can be observed, we can say that the population is declining.
이런 저출산 문제는 특히나 대도시에서 더욱더 심화되는 경향이 있습니다.
And we can see a trend where the total fertility rate is likely to be lower as we move into the bigger cities. So the bigger cities have this problem in particular.
그런데 이게 빈집과 무슨 상관이냐라고 생각하실 수 있는데요. 사람들이 한 곳으로 몰려 살게 되면 자연스럽게 빈집도 늘어나고요. 또 자연스럽게 출산율도 떨어지는 경향이 있기 때문입니다.
So you might find yourselves wondering, how is all this related to the question of vacant housing? We can actually see that whenever people come to flock to a particular region and therefore will no longer be present in another region, this will also be connected to vacant houses becoming more numerous in the deserted, in the emptying region.
그게 이제 두 번째 주제인 사람들의 이동 문제로 이어집니다.
And the second connection we can see between vacant housing and other social issues and other urban issues is the connection to social migration, what I want to call social migration.
오른쪽에 이 독일이 있고 왼쪽에 한국이 있는데 이거는 그 얼마나 많은 사람들이 어떤 특정 구역에 살고 있는지를 보여주는 카토그램 그래프입니다.
So you see two cartographs or cartograms here,
네.
one depicting Germany, one depicting the Republic of Korea, and it shows the concentration of population in specific areas.
왼쪽에서 한국을 보시면 서울이 있고 서울 주변에만 한국 인구의 절반 이상이 살고 있다는 것을 알 수 있습니다.
If you take a look at the left picture that is representing the Republic of Korea, you can see that more than half of the population are concentrated in the area in and around Seoul.
오른쪽 독일 그림은 그나마 괜찮아 보이긴 하지만 특히나 베를린과 라입지히를 제외한 구동독 지역이 상당히 쪼그라들어 있다는 것을 알 수 있죠.
Germany looks comparatively less extreme when we look at the picture we can see here, but we do also see that with the exception of Berlin and Leipzig, the eastern part of Germany is less densely populated than the rest of Germany.
실제로 1990년대에 동독 지역에서 서독 지역으로 1.5 million people이 이동을 했습니다.
In the 1990s in particular, 1.5 million people moved from the eastern part of Germany to the western part of Germany.
이후로는 이 대도시로 사람들이 모여드는 경향을 보입니다.
And after that, we can see a phenomenon whereby more and more of the population becomes concentrated in large cities.
이걸 좀 더 수치화해서 보겠습니다. 지금 보이는 테이블 왼쪽은 독일, 오른쪽은 한국입니다. 인구가 가장 많은 도시 20개를 펼쳐봤습니다.
Let's take at numbers, more specific numbers to talk about this. Sorry, let's take a look at numbers to discuss this problem. On the left, you can see Germany. On the right, you can see Korea. And I've listed the numbers, the figures for 20 cities altogether for each country.
두 가지 공통점이 있는데요. 첫 번째는 초록색으로 표시된 berlin과 서울이 상당히 많은 집중도를 보이고 있다는 것이고요.
So we can see two commonalities when we compare the two countries. The first is, and this is expressed here in green, that a large percentage of the population is concentrated in the capital city, both for Germany and for South Korea. So we're talking about Berlin and Seoul.
그리고 두 번째 특징은 인구가 많은 여러 도시가 일종의 메트로폴리탄 지역을 형성한다는 것입니다.
And the second commonality is that we can observe what I would like to call a metropolitan area that consists of a number of cities that each have a relatively large number of inhabitants.
노란색으로 표시된 권역을 보시면 되는데요. 독일에서는 이제 노르틀라인 베스트팔렌 지역이 그렇고요. 한국에서는 서울 메트로 에리어가 그렇다고 볼 수 있습니다.
And this is what I highlighted in yellow. You can see that in the case of Germany, this concentration into what I would like to call a metropolitan area takes place in the land of North Rhine-Westphalia. And in Korea, in South Korea, we're looking at the Seoul metropolitan area.
여기서 그 한국만이 가진 특징을 이제 조금만 더 설명을 드리면 한국의 11위인 창원이라는 도시가 보일 겁니다.
Now let me talk. I talked about commonalities. Let me talk about one thing that is specific, particular to South Korea, and for that, I would like you to look at the city that is listed as number 11. It's a place called Changwon.
그리고 8위 울산도 보일 거고요.
And take a look at number 8, Ulsan as well, please.
여기는 서울에서 매우 멀리 떨어져 있는데 이 두 지역 같은 경우에는 인구가 줄어들면서 빈집 문제가 발생할 가능성이 있습니다.
Both of these cities are relatively far away from Seoul, and for both of these cities, we can say that the likelihood of vacant housing increasing there is quite dramatic, is quite strong.
메트로폴리탄을 형성하지 못한 대도시에서는 인구가 유출되는 문제도 발생하고 있다라는 것을 알 수 있죠.
And of course, in this context, we can also say that any city that does not succeed in transforming itself into a metropolitan area will be faced with the problem of a loss of population.
그로 인해서 빈집이 발생하는 권역이 지도가 이렇게 나옵니다. 왼쪽이 한국이고 오른쪽이 독일입니다.
If we take a look at the specific regions that are faced with this problem of vacant housing, that have this problem, where the problem is particularly severe, I would like you to take a look at these two maps, the left depicting Korea and Republic of Korea and the right depicting Germany.
한국의 경우에는 서울과 거리가 먼 남쪽 지역이 빈집이 많이 나오고 있고 독일에서는 동독 지역에서 대도시를 제외한 나머지 지역에서 빈집들이 많이 나오고 있습니다.
In the case of South Korea, you can see that the areas most affected by the problem of vacant housing are the areas that are the furthest removed from the capital Seoul. And in the case of Germany, you can see that most affected is the eastern part of Germany, with the exception of the very large cities, Berlin and Leipzig. Leipzig 맞죠, 선생님?
네, 맞습니다.
네네, Berlin and Leipzig.
여기서 최근 한국에서 발생하는 또 다른 이슈가 있습니다.
And we have another issue that South Korea is facing in the recent times.
2010년대 중반부터 청년 여성이 서울로 대거 이주한다는 것입니다.
And that is that from the middle of the 2010s onwards, we can see large numbers of young women in particular flocking towards Seoul, flocking to Seoul.
이 그래프에서 오렌지색으로 표기되어 있는 게 20대 여성을 의미합니다.
In this particular graph, the orange part represents young women, women in their 20s.
검은색과 회색 영역은 20대 남성을 의미하고요.
And in black and gray, we see the black and gray represent the number of young men.
이 수치는 순전입, 그러니까 서울로 들어온 사람에서 서울을 떠난 사람을 뺀 숫자입니다.
So, and all of these figures, whether relating to men or women, relate to the net migration. So this is the number of people moving to Seoul minus the number of people who leave Seoul. And this leaves us with this net migration figure.
2016년부터 여성의 순전입, 그러니까 여성 1인 가구가 서울로 오는 경우가 상당히 많아졌다는 걸 알 수 있습니다.
And we can see that from 2016 onwards in particular, the number of women moving to Seoul, young women moving to Seoul, has increased.
이는 상당히 중요한 문제인데요. 왜냐하면 여성 1인 가구가 늘어나고 있고 또 그 여성들이 서울에서 살면서 상당히 비싼 생활비를 내며 살아가야 된다는 것을 의미합니다.
And these women, when they move to Seoul, they live in individual accommodation, which also means that they will have to pay relatively large amounts of money for rent and accommodation, and their living costs in general will be relatively high.
하지만 상대적으로 지방 도시에서는 청년 여성을 계속해서 잃어버리고 있다라는 얘기이기도 하죠.
And the flip side of this is, of course, that non-metropolitan areas, more rural, more provincial areas, are losing large numbers of young women.
그러다 보니 실제로는 이 지방 도시에서 인구 재생산이 이루어지기 어려워졌고 자연스럽게 고령화 문제가 닥치게 됩니다.
And this also means that in more provincial areas, more provincial towns and cities, the regeneration of the population is becoming more and more difficult, and this naturally leads to a phenomenon of an increasingly aging population.
이건 한국과 독일 모두 마찬가지인데 왼쪽 사진은 한국이고 오른쪽 사진은 독일입니다.
This is equally true for the Republic of Korea and for Germany. On the left, you can see a picture from Korea, on the right one from Germany.
한국과 독일 모두 지역의 작은 도시에서는 고령자 비중이 늘어나고 있고 이들이 사망했을 때 생겨나는 빈집의 규모가 상당할 것으로 보입니다.
For both Korea and Germany, we can say that in small towns, the number of elderly people is increasing. And as these elderly people pass, this will create vacant houses. So this problem is equally becoming more and more urgent, both in Korea and in Germany.
이거를 이제 이 그림을 통해서 한번 살펴볼게요. 물론 한국이 매우 익스트림하지만 전반적으로 한국과 독일 모두 모양이 비슷하다는 걸 알 수 있습니다.
If we take a look at these two graphs, we can see that, yes, the Republic of Korea looks a bit more, the situation there looks a bit more dramatic, more drastic. But generally speaking, the shape that we can observe is quite similar for this population pyramid.
특히 50대, 60대 베이비 부머들이 인구가 상당히 많다는 걸 알 수 있죠.
We can see that in both countries, the number of the so-called baby boomers of the generation now in their 50s or 60s is quite large.
그런데 만약에 10년, 20년 후에 이들이 살던 집이 빈집이 된다면 이걸 해결하는 것이 매우 중요한 문제가 될 수 있습니다.
If we take a look into the future, if we think about the time from 10 years or more onwards, we can easily predict that the question of vacant housing will become more urgent.
물론 독일이 그나마 사정이 낫습니다.
I do admit, though, that in comparison, Germany is relatively better off still, but it also is facing this problem.
왜냐하면 왼쪽 그래프는 인류 역사상 한 번도 나온 적이 없었거든요.
The thing that tells us that the German case is still a bit less bad than the situation in Korea, excuse me, is that the kind of shape that we see on the left, I am afraid to tell you, has never been seen in the history of humankind so far. This is the first time that this kind of graph has appeared for any country for the population period. Population pyramid.
네. 이 한국과 독일 모두 총 인구 수가 줄어들 것으로 예정되어 있습니다. 이건 피할 수 없는 미래입니다.
Now, it is generally agreed that it is unavoidable for both Korea and Germany that the overall population is going to decline.
물론 한국이 조금 더 익스트림하긴 합니다. 왜냐하면
Of course, Korea is
네.
again a bit more extreme because
30 million people이 사라지기 때문인데요. 근데
30 million
독일은
people are expected to disappear.
예.
Yeah.
하지만 독일은 이제 10 million 정도만 사라지는 것으로 보입니다.
By comparison, 10 million, a decrease of 10 million population is expected for Germany.
네. 지금 이런 문제들이 빈집에 미치는 영향들을 종합적으로 고민해 볼 필요가 있습니다.
So we have to take a
하지만
compromise. Oh, I'm so
네,
sorry.
말씀해
We
주시면
have to
괜찮습니다.
네, 먼저 제가 말씀드릴까요? 예.
네.
We have to take a comprehensive look at how all these questions, all the things that I showed, presented to you just now, how they are related to the question of vacant housing.
네. 비슷한 점이 많지만 한국이 조금 더 심각하기는 합니다.
So, as I said before, there are many commonalities, but the situation in Korea is a bit more severe.
특히나 한국에서는 빈집 문제가 이 고유의 문제 때문에 더더욱 복잡합니다.
And the question in Korea is a bit more complicated because there are certain specifics in the Korean situation.
그럼 차이점을 살펴보도록 하겠습니다.
So let's take a closer look at the disparities between the situation in Germany and Korea. What makes the Korean situation specific?
첫 번째는 이 주택 시장 문제, 부동산 시장 문제입니다.
The first the first area where we can see differences is that of the housing market and the real estate market.
한국에서 특히나 빈집 문제가 논의되지 못했던 건 집이라는 것을 상당히 재산으로 여기는 경향이 강하기 때문입니다.
One of the reasons why the problem of vacant housing has not been able to attract the kind of debate and discussion that is actually appropriate to the circumstances is that the very notion of a house in Korea is very strongly connected to the notion of private ownership and to the notion of private assets.
한국인들은 개인의 어떤 전체 재산의 70% 정도가 부동산에 쏠려 있습니다.
If we look at the distribution of various If we look at assets and property, private property in Korea, we can say that up to 70% will consist of assets in the real estate market.
특히 동아시아에서 이런 비슷한 경향이 나타나는데요. 왜냐하면 개인이 부자가 되는 방법으로 부동산 투자가 성행했기 때문입니다.
This is a phenomenon we can see in East Asia more generally, and all of this is related to the fact that if you want to make money, if you want to become rich, investing in real estate has been the most prominent method of investment.
그런데 사람들이 이제 전국적으로 사람들이 줄어들겠네라고 다 알아요.
Now, of course, everybody in Korea is aware of the fact that the population is declining, that the population is decreasing.
그래서 2년 전부터 어떤 일이 있었냐면 이렇게 생각하는 겁니다. 어차피 그럼 집이 많이 필요 없겠네? 그럼 사람들이 모이는 곳에 있는 집을 사야겠네? 이렇게요.
And from about 2 years onwards, we can see a new way of thinking. People who are aware of this problem of the population declining, they think, oh, so I will have to be careful to invest in housing in regions where there is still a relatively high number of inhabitants. So where people actually gather, I will have to buy a house there.
그래서 서울만 부동산 가격이 오르는 현상이 발생을 하고 있습니다.
Excuse me, I should correct myself. When I said house, I meant also apartment, just housing. So we can see a phenomenon where the investments in the real estate market, they are more and more focusing on Seoul.
특히 독일과의 차이가 여기서 발생하는데, 이 독일은 협동조합이라고 하죠. 협동조합들이 이 주택을 관리하거나 소유하는 경우가 많지만, 한국은 개인들이 주로 주택을 소유하고 관리합니다.
An important difference between the housing situation in South Korea and in Germany is that whereas in Germany we can very often see housing cooperatives owning and managing buildings, in Korea the ownership and management of buildings is firmly in the hand of private individuals.
그래서 지방정부가 빈집에 대해서 뭘 하려면 개인을 설득해야 돼서 매우 힘든 상황입니다.
So if the local governments, local self-governing bodies want to introduce some new measure regarding the problem of vacant houses, they are confronted with resistance from private owners. So that makes it very difficult for the local governments to introduce necessary measures.
이 페이지는 넘어가도록 하고요. 두 번째 컨스트럭션 문제가 있습니다.
I will skip a
여러분들
page and let's look at the question of construction now.
오른쪽 이미지 보시면 아시겠지만 이 익숙한 노래가 하나 있을 겁니다.
On the right, you can see something which reminds you of a very probably of a song you're familiar with.
예, 그 아파트가 이 아파트가 맞습니다.
And it's true, this apartment in the song is actually the kind of apartment we're talking about now.
네. 그런데 이 독일에도 비슷한 주택 양식이 있어요. 이제 플라텐바우라고 하죠.
In Germany, we have something that, by looking at it at least, looks similar to a Korean-style apartment, and that is what we call the Plattenbau in German.
일단 외형적으로는 이렇게 차이가 있습니다.
But if you look at the outward appearance already, we do see some differences.
그런데 이제 조금 더 뜯어보면 상당히 큰 차이점이 있다는 것을 알 수 있습니다.
And the
여기에
differences become more
간단하게 차이를
apparent
좀
when we.
정리했습니다.
Oh, I'm so particular. 저 너무 죄송해요.
아닙니다. 괜찮습니다. 네.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. So yes, even the outward appearance shows certain differences in spite of certain similarities. And now let's take a deeper look at how Plattenbau and apartment are two different concepts in Germany and Korea.
핵심은 이겁니다. 한국은 아파트가 사람들이 가장 좋아하고 또 가장 비싸고 또 가장 많습니다.
The central difference, the main difference is that in Korea, the apartment building is both the most popular as well as the most expensive, as well as the most frequent form of building houses.
그런데 이 아파트도 빈집 문제가 최근에 발생하고 있습니다.
But no matter how popular and numerous they are, apartment buildings in Korea too are now related to this, now face this problem of vacant housing.
이 한국과 미국에서 특히 많이 발생하는 문제인데요.
This is a problem that is most prominent in Korea and the United States.
왼쪽 아래 보이는 사진처럼 아파트가 노후화되었을 때 저걸 고치기보다는 아예 허물고 그 자리에 새 아파트를 짓는 재건축을 선호합니다.
기자님 죄송하지만은 여기
네네.
슬라이드에서 한국이랑 일본이라 나왔는데요.
네네.
말씀하신 것은 미국인데 그거 맞았어요?
미국 아니요. 제가 일본이라고 말씀드렸어요. 죄송합니다.
그럼 제가 잘못 들었나요?
네네네.
Okay.
일본과 한국이요. 네네.
Yeah, so we're talking about Korea and Japan here, not Korea and the United States. Let me correct that. My apologies. So what we see is that when apartment buildings in South Korea or in Japan become old and are in need of renovation, no renovation is undertaking, but instead the buildings are torn down and new apartment buildings are built in their place. This is something we can observe recently.
하지만 이런 곳에 이제 노인분들이 많이 살고 있는 경우에는 다 부수고 새로 짓기가 쉽지가 않습니다. 그래서 이런 집들이 방치되는 경우가 최근에 많이 발생하고 있습니다.
But tearing down a building, an old apartment building, and constructing a new building in that same place is difficult when those who inhabit the buildings are elderly. So in these situations, what we see a lot now is that the buildings are simply neglected and they're dilapidating even further and further.
특히 중요한 건 아파트 한 칸마다 소유자가 다 다르다는 겁니다.
So the important thing we have to notice here is that in these apartment complexes, each apartment might have a different owner.
그런데 이제 플라텐바우 같은 경우에는 이 아래에 보이는 것처럼 주택 조합이 직접 리노베이션을 추진할 수가 있게 되죠.
The situation is different in Germany, where in the case of the Plattenbau, very often we see housing cooperatives being the owners, which means that the housing cooperative as a unit can undertake this project of renovation and maintenance.
그 개별 유닛을 가진 이 소유주에게 다 동의를 얻는 것보다 이런 방식이 조금 더 집을 고치는데 효과적일 수 있습니다.
So the process of maintaining and renovating buildings is simply easier when the housing cooperative can act as a unit. Whereas in the case where each apartment is owned by a different individual owner, you need a process of all of these owners agreeing on the enterprise of renovation, which is just that much more unlikely to occur.
이민 정책에 있어서도 상당한 차이를 보이고 있습니다.
We can also see big differences between South Korea and Germany when it comes to immigration policy and how it is related to the housing issue.
한국은 이민에 대해서 아직 폐쇄적입니다. 단순히 외국인이 잠깐 와서 일하면서 노동력을 제공해 주기를 원하고 있죠.
We can still say that South Korea is a rather closed society when it comes to the question of immigration. And foreigners who come to the country to work are expected to stay there temporarily only and to focus on providing labor.
장기적으로 이 빈집도 사주고 여기서 가족도 꾸리고 이러기를 원하는 목소리가 상당히 적습니다.
So there are very few people who argue in favor of allowing these workers to settle long term and maybe in the process also buy what are presently vacant houses. Very few people argue that way because of this general attitude towards migration and immigration.
네. 더 충격적인 거는 그렇기 때문에 잠깐 와서 일하고 가는 사람들이란 인식이 강해서 지금 사진 속에 보이는 비닐하우스처럼 외국인 노동자들의 처우나 주거 환경이 열악한 경우가 많습니다.
What is even more shocking than that is because of the persistence of this idea of workers being people who just come and stay for a while and then leave again. We actually see many foreign workers being offered housing, if that is what you call it, what you can call it, in the form that you can see in the picture. So basically just improvised shelters with vinyl coverings. This is the present state of affairs for a lot of the accommodation for foreign workers.
마지막으로는 경로 의존성입니다.
Lastly, I want to talk about path dependency.
빈집이 많이 발생하고 있지만 아직 대부분의 한국 지방 정부는 이 구도심이 아닌 신도시를 개발하면 문제가 해결될 것이다라고 보는 경향이 있습니다.
So we have this problem of an increasing number of vacant houses, but we still find the majority of local governments being fixated on this idea that the solution to this problem will be building new cities. So there still is a focus on developing new cities rather than a focus on maintaining and renovating existing housing.
이런 신도시들은 인구를 빨아들이기 때문에 빈집이 더 늘어나는 효과가 생기죠.
And of course, this leads to a phenomenon where the new housing that has been newly created, constructed, will gather even more of the population so that even more empty housing vacant housing will come into existence elsewhere.
네, 아래 보이는 사진이 사실은 이 여러분들이 가게 될 안동이라는 지역입니다.
Actually, the picture that you can see here is from Andong, which, as I know, as I've been told, is where you will go for your summer school.
이 신도시에서 아래쪽 부분은 땅을 이제 이 구획을 지정해 놓긴 했지만 사실 여기에서 살 인구가 적어서 실제로 집이 지어지고 있지는 않은 상황입니다.
저 기사님 죄송합니다. 그거
아,
다시.
죄송합니다. 네네.
네네, 네네.
아래 빈 땅은
네네, 빈 땅이요.
아직
예.
빈 땅은 땅만 만들어
네,
놓고 집을
네.
짓지 못하고 있습니다. 사람이 없거든요.
So in the picture here, you can see that the ground has been prepared, so to speak, for building new houses, but everything has been, the rest has been emptied out, but this is the state of affairs. No actual building construction has started yet.
이런 신도시 개발이 서울뿐만이 아니라 전국에 있는 많은 도시에서 여전히 이어지고 있습니다.
But this kind of attempt to create new cities is very visible all over the country, and that's not true just for the Seoul metropolitan area. All over the country, we can see local governments persisting in the idea of developing new cities rather than dealing with the vacant housing problem.
그렇다면 이런 빈집을 어떻게 해야 될까요? 이게 단순히 재생하기만 하면 될까요? 아니면 뭐 없애야 될까요?
So, what are we to do when faced with this problem of vacant housing? Should we try to regenerate them, or should the focus rather be on demolition? What would be a true and good solution?
일단 핵심은 빈집은 현상이자 바로미터라고 볼 수 있습니다.
I think a central and very focal point here is that vacant houses are both. They're both a phenomenon in and of themselves, but they're also a very important barometer that allows us to measure other phenomena, other factors in our societies.
그래서 이 세 가지를 꼭 기억을 해야 되는데요.
So I think there are three things we have to keep in mind.
밑에 적어둔 세 가지입니다. 어디에도 완벽한 해결책은 없고 철거만이 정답이 아닐 수도 있고요. 또 각 도시나 국가가 직면한 환경이 다르기 때문에 이 특정 도시의 사례를 그대로 가져다가 활용할 수는 없다. 이 세 가지 사실은 꼭 기억을 해야 됩니다.
What we have to remember, what's very important to remember, is the three factors that are listed at the bottom of this slide. First of all, there is no perfect one solution for this problem of vacant housing, and nowhere in the world. Secondly, demolition in and of itself will not be the answer. And also we should be careful about thinking that success in one place for one city, for one town, provides a model study, a model case that can equally be applied elsewhere. So there will always be tailor-made individual solutions that need to be found for each and every city and country we're talking about.
그럼에도 불구하고 우리가 한 가지 사례를 좀 살펴본다면 아무래도 라입지를 들 수 있습니다.
However, if in spite of what I just said, we were to take a look at one model case, one sample case, I would like to take a closer look at the city of Leipzig.
물론 여기에는 논란이 있습니다. 운이 좋았다고 보는 사람도 있고 아니면 그래도 얘네가 열심히 했다 이렇게 생각하는 사람도 있습니다.
Actually, there is also controversy surrounding this, what I want to now present to you as the model case, because there are some who say, oh, they were just lucky. But there are, again, others who say, no, this is also due to the serious, so the success is actually due to the particular approach they took. So there is some controversy, but yes, let's take a closer look at Leipzig.
하지만 물론 정책적인 측면도 살펴볼 필요가 있습니다. 특히 정책의 핵심은 이 스마트 슈링키지라고 해서 이제 똑똑하게 축소를 인정하자라는 것입니다.
And if we take a closer look at the particular strategies, the particular policies that were applied, we can see what we can call smart shrinkage. So this is the notion that shrinkage, population decline should be acknowledged, but that we should be smart about the ways we can react and what we can do in the face of this phenomenon.
이 아래 네 가지 정책이 특히 핵심이었는데요. 첫 번째는 빈집을 10% 정도는 그래도 지속적으로 철거하는 과정이었고요.
So if we take a look at the 4 bullet points that are listed at the bottom of this slide, you can see that the strategy adopted in Leipzig comprised, first of all, an acknowledgement that about 10% of vacant housing would simply have to be demolished.
두 번째는 기업을 유치하면서 일자리를 늘리는 것이었고, 세 번째는 EU나 독일 연방 정부에서 지급하는 각종 지원금을 활용하는 것이었습니다.
The second aspect of the particular strategy adopted in Leipzig was to try to attempt to lure in certain businesses, to attract companies to these vacant houses. And the third one was applying for public subsidies, applying for funding from the federal level.
그리고 마지막 정책이 좀 독특했는데, 예술가와 활동가들에게 일종의 공간을 무료로 내어주는 일을 진행을 했습니다. 요 독일어 단어는 제가 읽는 법을 잘 몰라서 읽어주시면 될 것 같아요.
The fourth aspect of the strategy adapted in Leipzig is particularly interesting and also peculiar. Certain houses have become known as Wächterhäuser, and these were vacant houses that were given for free, that were given to, not the houses themselves, but artists and activists were allowed to use these spaces for free, and that was one way of converting them into spaces that are actually vibrant and alive.
제가 맨 처음에 베를린을 되게 좋아했다고 말씀드렸던 거 기억하시나요?
Do you remember that actually in the beginning I spoke about Berlin and how Berlin is particularly close to my heart?
그때가 이제 2009년이었는데 10년 후 2019년에 라이프치히에 이제 취재를 하러 갔더니 제가 좋아했던 베를린이 여기에 있더라고요.
My first time visiting Berlin, where I actually became fond of the city, was in 2009, as I told you earlier. And then when I came back to Germany, visiting Leipzig in particular in 2019 for the purposes of investigating the feature-length article that we're talking about today, I found my beloved Berlin to be in this situation, as you can see here.
그런데 저희가 취재할 때 이 라이프치히 그 시청 그러니까 이런 도시재생 담당하시는 공무원이 뭐라고 얘기를 했냐면 이렇게 얘기를 했습니다. 진보적이고 이 문화적인 활동에 이제 적극적인 사람들이 이런 빈집에 들어와서 사는 것에 대해서 거리낌이 없다. 이렇게 설명을 하더라고요.
Someone in the city hall in Leipzig at the time of my research into the vacant housing problem in Germany in 2019 told me that in their experience, those who were on the progressive side and those who were very artistic had little concerns were quite willing, quite eager to move into vacant housing and to use them for their purposes.
그래서 시청 입장에서도 자연스럽게 빈집 문제 해결을 위해서 그런 사람들을 받아들이는 게 더 좋은 구조였던 겁니다.
And this person also told me that because artists and activists of this progressive mindset, they were quite willing and ready to use vacant houses. They became frequent collaborators from this city hall's point of view in order to make vibrant and lively use of the vacant houses.
혹시 이 단어를 여러분들이 아시는지 모르겠어요. 이게 뭐냐면 2003년 당시에 베를린 시장이 자기 도시에 대해서 이렇게 얘기를 했습니다. 우리는 가난하지만 섹시하다라고요.
I suppose many of you are familiar with this famous quote from Klaus Wowereit at the time, the mayor of Berlin, who said, "Yes, we might be poor, but we're sexy. Wir sind arm, aber sexy. Berlin ist arm, aber sexy."
그래서 이게 일종의 밈처럼 그때는 물론 밈이 없었지만 이게 밈처럼 확대되기도 했었습니다.
At the time, we did not really have memes yet, but I do want to say that this became very popular and it spread like a meme would these days, this saying.
그런데 지금 라이프치히가 이제 취하는 정책들이나 어떤 해결하고자 하는 방향들이 당시의 베를린의 모습과 상당 부분 일치하기는 해요. 물론 당시 베를린보다 라이프치히는 훨씬 더 기업과 공장이 많은 조금 더 부유한 도시이긴 합니다.
네. 뭐가 많다는 말씀이시죠? 죄송해요. 좀,
네,
예,
네. 일자리가
네,
많은
예,
부유한 도시지만
예,
어쨌든
예.
기본적인 전략은 2000년대의 베를린과 비슷하다라는
Yeah, yeah,
의미입니다.
yeah. So I can say that the Leipzig that I came to see and that I came to examine when I was here in 2019, in many respects, is quite in a similar situation that Berlin might have been in the situation 2003. I see certain similarities there.
그런데 이 2010년대에 라입시히 같은 경우에는 최근에 그 좀 엄청난 변화를 겪고 있습니다.
But Leipzig has actually undergone significant, rather drastic change when it comes to the issue of vacant housing from the
왜냐하면 인구
2010s
네,
onwards. Late, yeah.
네. 왜냐하면 인구가 갑자기 늘고 있어서예요. 어,
And that's because there was a
그랬더니
sudden increase in the population. And then
그랬더니 집이 부족합니다, 이제.
suddenly, Leipzig found itself lacking housing, was confronted with a shortage of housing.
특히나 이제 affordable housing이라고 해서 이 적정 가격의 주택, 적정 사회 주택이 모자라다라는 얘기가 나오고 있습니다.
And this relates to affordable housing in particular. So Leipzig is finds itself facing a problem of a lack in affordable housing.
네. 그래서 늘 그 도시의 어떤 이 재생 문제들은 상당히 이 하나 죄송합니다. 다시 할게요. 그래서
아니에요.
도시 재생 문제는
네.
갑작스럽게 다른 문제로 전이되는 경우도 많습니다.
And more generally, we can say that these problems related to the regeneration of housing in cities, they have a tendency to very quickly change in swift and change in character.
라입치히에서 집이 부족할 것이다라는 얘기를 10년 전에 했다면 사람들이 믿지 않았을 겁니다.
If anyone had said 10 years ago, oh, there will be a time when housing will be lacking in Leipzig, when there will be a shortage of housing in Leipzig, people would not have believed them.
하지만 라입치히는 지금 인구가 늘고 있는 상황이고, 성공적인 도시 재생을 한 것 같아 보이지만, 그와 반대로 인근의 다른 동독, 이 작은 도시들은 여전히 인구가 유출되고 있습니다.
But we have to keep in mind that while Leipzig might now show a trend of an increase in population and might therefore be considered a successful case in neighboring regions, the problem of a decrease in population and the connected problem of the increase in vacant housing is persistent.
실제로 이런 과정들을 겪으면서 이 특정 개념에 대해서 상당히 많은 혼선들이 있습니다.
If we take a closer look at concepts, notions related to vacant housing and what we could do to address it, we actually see that there is considerable confusion.
여기에서 나와 있는 걸 간단하게 보자면 리빌드랑 이제 리디벨롭먼트 같은 경우에는 전형적인 한국에서 생각하는 이 관점인데 한마디로 다 부수고 새로 짓는다는 겁니다.
Let's start by looking at rebuilding and redevelopment, which is actually the most established, the most traditional method in Korea of dealing with vacant housing. Simplified, this would be destroying everything and building again from scratch.
그런데 이 흥미롭게도 2010년대에 한국에서 리제너레이션과 리바이탈라이제이션에 대한 논의가 일기도 했습니다.
Interesting though, there was a time in the 2010s where there has been debate in Korea about regeneration and revitalization.
왜냐하면 글로벌 금융위기 이후로 많은 공사 현장들이 실제로 문을 닫았기 때문이죠.
And this is related to the fact that as part of the global financial crisis, many building sites were closed off. Many building projects were terminated.
당시 서울시장은 도시 재생을 이 도시 행정의 전면에 내세우기도 했습니다.
And at the time, the mayor of Seoul actually said that this question of redevelopment is at the forefront of problems for Seoul.
하지만 이 당시에 인구가 특히나 한국에서 인구가 서울과 서울 주변 지역으로 몰리는 현상이 심해졌기 때문에 결국에는 이러한 재생 논의가 사실상 중단되고 말았습니다.
But in the case of Seoul, the debate about regeneration, redevelopment actually ended simply because Seoul was actually facing such an influx of population that the problem of vacant housing was not as pressing for Seoul. 기자님 이거 맞나요? 제가 잘 이해했나요?
네네네. 예.
네네.
그리고
예.
뒷문장까지 하면 완벽해질 것 같아요.
네.
특히 빈집이 별로 없는 서울에서 도시재생 논의가 활발했다는 것이 한국 도시재생의 아이러니이기도 합니다.
But it is, when we look back at the time where there was actually quite a lively debate about regeneration and revitalization of buildings, it is quite ironic almost that this debate took place in Seoul of all places, which never had such a severe problem of vacant housing in the first place.
왜냐하면 같은 기간에 다른 지방 도시는 아까 사진에서 보셨던 것처럼 신도시를 개발하면 도시가 살아날 것이라고 생각했거든요.
And the background to this is something that we mentioned earlier, that in the non-capital regions of South Korea, at the time, the belief was still strong that the problem of vacant housing would just disappear as long as one would come up with new cities and develop new cities.
그래서 2020년대 한국은 도시 재생에 있어서 새로운 관점을 정립해야 할 필요가 있습니다.
So we can say that actually a completely new approach would need to be taken and should have been taken in Korea from the 2010s onwards when it comes to dealing with the question of the revitalization and the regeneration of buildings, houses, and cities.
그래서 최근에는 한국의 지방 도시들이 도시 재생에 대한 관심을 많이 갖고 있는 상황입니다.
Presently, we can say that provincial towns are becoming more and more interested and more in the problem of how to deal with vacant housing, and are also developing more and more ideas regarding this issue.
그런데 리제너레이션에서 가장 중요한 게 있습니다. 바로 청년입니다.
But there is something which is quintessential when it comes to regeneration, and that is simply youth. The youth are of central importance.
문제는 청년들이 이 지방 대도시에라도 많이 있어야 되는데 한국의 경우에는 주요 대학들이 대부분 서울에 있어서 청년들이 서울로 계속해서 몰려오고 있는 상황입니다.
The problem for South Korea in particular here is, though, that while one would at least expect there to be a certain number of young people in the bigger cities and the provinces, even that is not the case, because the biggest and the most popular universities are all situated in Seoul.
하지만 이 독일에서는 대도시뿐만이 아니라 이 중간 규모 도시에서도 대학이 도시재생의 핵심이다라는 관점이 매우 중요하게 여겨지고 있습니다.
Even in Germany, it can be said that universities play a focal role in attracting a younger population, and that is true for all of the middle-sized cities in Germany.
안타깝게도 한국에서는 대학들의 서열화가 상당히 피라미드 구조로 마련되어 있고 그런 그런 높은 인기를 지닌 대학들이 대부분 서울에 위치해 있습니다.
Unfortunately, for Korea, there is a very rigid, one could almost say, ranking when it comes of the popularity of universities. It's a pyramid that is very pointed at the apex, and all of the really, really popular universities that are able to attract large number of students are situated in Seoul.
리제너레이션에는 가장 중요한 리소스가 필요한데 현재로서는 그 리소스를 서울이 독식하고 있는 구조인 거죠.
So we can say that while the resource of young people, of the youth, is so central, so focal to the issue of regeneration, that resource is monopolized at present by the city of Seoul.
그래서 한국에서 이 빈집 문제는 최근엔 좀 다른 얘기로 흘러가고 있습니다.
So we can see a new trend in the way that the problem of vacant housing is discussed in South Korea.
독일은 아까 그래도 이 인구가 그나마 잘 퍼져 있었지만 한국의 경우에는 서울이 독식하고 있으니 이 서울에 대항하는 메가시티 리전을 만들어야 된다라는 주장도 나오고 있습니다.
So, in contrast to Germany, where the population is still relatively evenly distributed all over the country, we can say that in South Korea, Seoul really is at the very top, at the very apex of a unipolar system. So we can see arguments that speak that say that even for the non-capital regions, one should try to come up with mega cities that are similar to the kind of mega city we can see around Seoul.
안동과 영월을 가신다고 들었습니다.
So I heard that you are going to visit Andong and Yeongwol as part of your summer school.
그곳에 가서 이제 보시면서, 과연, 이제 이런 질문들을 한번 생각해 보면서 가보면 한국의 도시 재생에 대해서 조금 더 입체적으로 보실 수가 있을 것입니다.
So when you do go, I think you can have a more tangible and more concrete, more solid understanding of the problem of vacant housing and how to deal with it if you consider the three following points that I'm going to raise.
제 생각에도 아마 안동과 영월에 계신 분들이 이 질문들을 가장 해결해야 되는 문제라고 생각하고 계실 겁니다.
And I actually dare predict that those who you will encounter in Andong and Yeongwol will also think that these are the 3 points that require the most urgent attention and reflection.
네, 여기까지 마무리하도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Yes, that is it for now. Thank you very much.